Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Dropping the Gloves. Tim's here. I'm here. Everybody, the whole gang's here. Tim, how are you doing?
I'm good. It's Friday. How bad could I be?
Is Friday your favorite day? Is that the day where you just let loose? You're excited for the weekend because you really don't have a job that ties you down to anything. So is Friday just like blend into the rest of the other days now?
Let's talk about that just for a second. Yeah, I quit my job in the middle of October was my last day, and I've been spending the last 2 months almost exactly focusing more on the podcast and doing a lot of freelance. And it's great because I'm able to get the revenue and income I need with not nearly as much time commitment. And so like the weekends are not a big deal anymore. Days and nights are not a big deal anymore. Like Mondays, I don't dread. Like I like the work that I'm doing and it's great, but it's kind of disorienting too. It's like, geez, what day is it? And like, how much work did I do? You know what I mean? And I still do it in like little spurts, but I'm not sitting in my desk for 8 hours a day anymore. It's great, but it is confusing. So yeah, Friday is not really a big deal for me anymore. It's not.
It's the new normal. This seems to be like how your age bracket works. There's no defined work week anymore. And COVID just amplified that. I feel like people are just kind of figuring out their schedule. It's very strange.
I think it's more to do with the location, like the remote work thing, but most people are still tied to their desk for large chunks of the day. And like doing your own freelance thing and building a business is different. And it's still very new for me, but I'm enjoying it so far.
Speaking of tied to the desk, Tim's a hero because his back hurts in his chair. And so he's having to sit in that chair during the podcast just because of the way the camera works and the backdrop. And I'm just impressed. You're really battling through this back injury, Tim.
For the last 2 weeks, I've only sit in this chair for this podcast. And I like noticed like this week we recorded Monday, Tuesday because of Graves. So we haven't done it for 2 days. I'm like, gee, my back's been feeling great. And I know like in 25 minutes, I'm going to be just in a bad mood for the rest of the day because of it. It's bad.
Just buy a chair, buy a different chair.
I'm going to do it this weekend.
All right. Well, I got some good news. GiveBetter.com is a company that exists in the world and you can go there and do all your sports gambling through GiveBetter. It is a fantastic company. Go to givebetter.com. Tell them we sent you. We gave out the tickets last week. It was a fantastic, the most heartwarming thing I've ever done. I would say ever. It was fantastic. And it's all through GiveBetter. They are the responsible sports gambling partner that turns your losses into charity donations. We're going to have the inventor of the company on Friday, Bo Gray. I'm very excited. His new app, Tim, he sent me over the beta version, it's called. It's awesome. It's absolutely flawless. So I'm excited to unveil that. It's a really neat thing that I think is going to actually. I think I don't want to say this lightly. It could be a pretty impressive app company. Like I don't know. It's pretty neat. But he's going to come on Friday. Go to givebetter.com. Tell him we sent you. It's going to be fun. What are you going to say, Tim?
You're pretty plugged into like the tech revolution happening with apps and all that stuff. Is this going to be in the sandbox as well?
Oh, that sandbox sucked, didn't it? Remember we had all our listeners. Do you remember we had Victor Hedman on last year and he was talking about that the online AI metaverse and you're going to go in the sandbox and all the people are going to be on the metaverse. It's as he was talking to me about it, in my head I said this is the stupidest idea I've ever heard. The only reason we had him on was to talk to Victor Hedman, but Victor wanted to talk about this dumb metaverse. It's a complete failure. This is different. I am not a tech guy, and I am excited about this because I downloaded the app and I was having fun on it, and I was blown away. I said, this is very cool. I could get behind this. You know me, Tim. I could care less about technology at all. I am anti anything. I still have an iPhone 6 for Pete's sake. And the only reason I have that is because my boss gave it to me. I had an iPhone 4 that I was using and it was perfectly fine. So this app's going to be, it's going to be really, really fun. But anyways, pretty cool moment this week. Spotify does their annual, how many minutes you've listened to this podcast, that podcast. It gives you the rankings of where you came in compared to everybody else in the world. I got a buddy he sent me. He was in the 11th percentile. Shout out to Neil Witkowski for the Drop in the Gloves podcast. He got one-upped by one of our listeners. Tim, who's this kid who's one of our favorite listeners? I'm very excited for him.
Yeah, I'm going to give a special shout out to Sammy Senko from White Rock, British Columbia. He's 8 years old, and he's in the top 0.5% of listeners, over 8,000 minutes listened in 2023 so far. So shout out to Sammy. Thanks for listening, buddy.
He might get to 10,000 minutes. That's a lot. Good for him. Yeah.
Good for him.
It is. He's good parents. Let his kid listen to us other than all that other trash. Keep it here. Family friendly. You learn a lot. Good for him. Shout out to Sammy. If I ever get out to White Rock, I'll look you up. It seems like it's beautiful, Tim. Right on the coast. Very, very scenic area. Lots of orca whales. Have you ever seen an orca in the wild, Tim?
I have not. Have you?
No, I've not. I've seen one movie, so they look amazing. All right, moving on. Ryan Graves. I like to do the reactions, you know? What did you think of the interview? A lot of times we end the interview and I'm just like, that stunk. Never again. I hate it. I didn't get that feeling. I thought it was a good interview. What did you think of Ryan? Were you just like enamored by him?
No, I like it though. He's one of like the guys that we would call our normal guest, that it's just like talking to anyone, whether it doesn't feel like he's like a famous, I mean, he's not that famous, but like a professional. Sometimes the guys just have a certain aura or way of talking that's a little bit out of reach, I guess, but he's very normal, very down to earth, that I really liked. Interesting hearing him talking about Sid versus McKinnon versus Jack Hughes and even Makar, and how their personalities are different, how they approach the game, how they see the game. That was really cool because you could tell he's thought about that question before, whether he's been asked or he just in his noticing, he was ready to like, okay, here's how Sid is different from Nate, who models after Sid, and this and that. So yeah, I thought it was great.
Has there ever been a player, and I was trying to think of some, maybe Yari Curry or even a Marty McSorley who got to ride shotgun with Wayne Gretzky his whole career. Has there ever been another player who has stepped into situations as prime as Ryan Graves has? He comes into the league and he gets to play with Cale Makar. And he's like, okay, there you go. Oh, it works fine. I'll play with Cale Makar. He leaves Cale, goes to New Jersey Devils, plays with Dougie Hamilton, another all-star. He leaves there for 2 years. Now he gets to play with Letang and Erik Karlsson. It is the sweetest, easiest job to play with those guys if you know how to do it. It's not easy if you're trying to keep up with them. You have to learn just to let them go, and you just come up behind them and clean up the mess that they make sometimes. But what a gift for a career to just ride in the coattails of all these guys, and he signs a deal for $27 million. It's just amazing. Can you think of anybody else? Maybe a winger on like an Alex DeBrincat gets to ride shotgun to Kaner. Something like that. Where you just like, it's amazing. I played for 7 teams. I have never played with the type of talent that he's played with, and he's been on 3 teams. Like, it's impressive. Jack Hughes and Crosby and Makar and Landeskog and Rantanen and McKinnon, like these are Hall of Fame guys. The only team I think I played on that had the caliber was the 2011 Blackhawks when we had Kane, Taves, Seabrook, Keith, Hossa. Like it was a stacked team. Every other team I was on was a pedestrian team. Like he's hit it 3 years in a row. Jack Hughes, Hershire, Timo Meyer. Like it's pretty impressive. I don't know. That's what I took out of that interview. I was like, man, you're pretty fortunate, Ryan Graves.
Well, the part of him talking about Makar, where they like tried out all these different lefty defensemen, it didn't work out, and then he had instant chemistry. And it's about more than like skill. Like the guys he mentioned, I forget who it was. He didn't say Taves, but maybe Gerard Ian Cole.
Yeah, there's a couple just stay-at-home guys who couldn't make it work.
Right, and they're probably better defensemen than Graves. Yeah, or at least they contribute certain things very well. So it's not just about like talent; it's about like how well you can fit certain situations. And Graves just knows how to play with that type of defenseman really well. How much of that was like instinct and skill and versus like coaching and just chemistry, who knows? But yeah, really cool. There's a whole career to be made out of guys like that who can just complement an elite player like that without taking anything away. And he did it really well.
There's something to be said about humbling yourself and knowing like, okay, I'm not as good as this guy. I need to just stay out of his way and facilitate his skill set. Maximize what he can do. And what are you smiling at?
I mean, that's your whole career, isn't it?
I think I tried to do that because I knew I wasn't as good as other guys. So I would play with high-end guys, whether it was like a Marek Zidlicki or a Brian Campbell or these types of players when I was playing defense. And I literally would tell them, I said, what do you want me to do? And Soupy was the best. I played with Soupy in Chicago for a year or maybe a year and a bit. He would just say, go in the corner and get hit, and I'll come and pick the puck up. So usually if the puck gets dumped in your corner, if I was a left, he was a right. If the puck would be dumped on the right side, Soupy would go and get it. Typically, I told him, I will go get buried, and you come in and get the puck and break it out. And we did that successfully for a long time, and it worked out great. And I had a great time playing with them. But then, yeah, the forward injuries happened, and I just had to play forward because it was a numbers game at that point. But gosh, most guys wouldn't like doing that. Most guys would want to handle the puck, prove that they can keep up with those types of players, and get some points. I could care less. I'm like, yeah, let's get it out of the zone as quick as we can. And you're an all-star. Like, let's go for it. So, yeah, Graves figures it out. He knows who better butters his bread, and it's Makar and it's Letang. Like, if you make those guys happy, you're not going anywhere. Like, they have that kind of power in the room and with the coaches. So good for him. All right, Tim. We had a season debut. The heavily talked about Patrick Kane. There was almost a dramatic soap opera where he's going to end up. There was rumors. There was lots of nuggets all over the place. Where's he going to end up? One of the first rumors was he's going to play for Detroit because he's best buds with Alec DeBrincat. Well, that one came true. He made his season debut yesterday. I thought it was a very easy game to ease into the San Jose Sharks, but I was wrong. San Jose Sharks are on fire. We'll get to them in a second. But Patrick Kane, how did he do? His first game in how many months since his offseason hip surgery?
Yeah, many. He made his debut. He played 16 minutes, 33 seconds, which I thought was a lot for a debut for a guy at his age who hasn't played in a while, coming off a major surgery. So playing a lot was good. So he must have felt good. He must have been giving continual feedback throughout the game to the coaches and vice versa. So they obviously liked what they saw, and he was feeling good. And I read some reports that were not fact-based, more just observational, but they said he looks good out there. He looks confident. He's skating well. So, yeah, didn't have any points on the night. But I think the bigger story is just this game. You know, it wasn't too much about Patrick Kane. It was about this back-and-forth game between the Sharks and the Red Wings, where the Red Wings were up 4-0. And then an 8-goal second period, the Sharks came back and tied it. They each score again in the third, and it goes to overtime, and the Sharks get a 2-on-0 breakaway when Backlund buries the backhand shot, the backdoor shot, I mean. Just a crazy, crazy back-and-forth game. And like you said, the Sharks are kind of doing something that no one expected them to do, right?
Well, no one expected they're winning. I think that's what you're talking about. Everybody expected them just to be garbage. But, yeah, they're playing fairly well. They're beating teams that they have no business beating. The Red Wings are playing good. They were one of the better teams in the league coming into this game, and they're just getting production. Thomas Hertl playing very, very well. Eklund, Granlund, you mentioned. Michael Granlund playing really, really good. So it's just a committee kind of thing. They don't have a high-end guy other than Hertl. Logan Couture has been out the whole season. I don't know what his timetable is, but I don't know. I don't understand it. Their goaltending still is garbage. You give up 5 goals, but it's just they seem to be winning games and they're scoring some goals. So good for San Jose. They are out of the basement. The worst team in the league now is the Chicago Blackhawks. So it's kind of neat that they're winning games.
Yeah, so let's dig into this a little bit more with some stats. So since they lost those 2 games back-to-back where they let in 10 goals of each of those 2 games, which was a low point in the past, decade of hockey. It's pretty bad. And they had the worst start in NHL history in terms of their winning record. Since then, they're technically above 500, 8-7-1 during that stretch, which is really, really cool. And then they had a 3-goal comeback on Tuesday, and then a 4-goal comeback last night on Thursday, which brings them now to 5-2 in their last 7, which is just about as hot as any team in the NHL right now. Obviously, they're not a good team. They're not going to be making anything interesting in a playoff run or anything like that. But I feel like they've earned a little bit of respect back around the league. They're not an easy out anymore, at least not right now. And after the start that they had, at least they're now going to give each team a hard out every single night. Yeah, they're good. They're not a bad team. They're not a rollover, like you said. So that's good. They have 4 decent lines. You know, I don't.
like they're not stocked with talent up and down the lineup, but I think every line has some aspect of a little bit of sandpaper, a little bit of offense, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I don't know. It's good for them. It's good for San Jose. They need to win. Like this is not a market that's going to sustain a team that's losing year after year after year, and it's been a lean couple years for the San Jose Sharks. So they need to start winning some games and showing some progress and getting some hope back on this team because I don't know. Do you want to dig into this or no? Like, are we going to get into the Sharks right now? The long-term plans of this team, because they still have Hurdle wrapped up. You still have Couture who's injured. You still have Vlasic for another 2 years after this year. Like the guy's he's signed on until 25, 26. So you're not getting out from under his contract anytime soon. So I don't know if you want to dig into what we can, but I think we put a pass on this. The bright side of the Sharks, I will say, much like a few other teams we've documented, they will have a lot of options after this season. They have so many guys coming off the books who are making a lot of money. Like Kevin Labanc. Remember when everybody's all in on Kevin Labanc? He's going to change the game. He's a young kid coming in. He's the bright spot for the San Jose Sharks. They signed him to a pretty big ticket. I think it was $4.75 million for a few years. He's coming off the books. By the way, he has just been an abject disaster ever since he signed that contract. Right? I think it was 2018-19 or 19-20 where he went out and he had some big seasons. He stunk since then. Absolutely stunk. He's got 1 goal this year. He's coming off the books. Some other guys are coming off the books. They're going to have roughly $40 million to spend, Tim. It's a lot of do-re-mi. So, and then did you hear that the cap projection for next year was released? It's like 87 million, I want to say, 88 million. So not quite the 91 million that Gary was throwing around before the season, but it's good. It's a start. A little more room than we thought.
Just drives me nuts when guys like him are just teasing out these little nuggets just to keep you on the line, just to keep you happy, and just to keep you satisfied for a few more weeks. You know, it's just drives me nuts when people do that.
We got a guy at the Nation Network who does that with sponsors. So he'll always be like, got a big deal coming through the pipeline. I know you were doing that, Tim, but I'm an honest cat. I'll just tell it like it is. And I called him out, and I'm like, stop dangling carrots, man. If you're going to get a deal for us, good, but just stop saying, oh, we got 4 dealerships. They want to put a huge deal. I'm like, no, they don't. You're just saying that. You sent them like a message through their portal. They don't listen to our show, so I don't care. But anyway, so moving on. The San Jose Sharks are winning. Kane is in the lineup. He was -1. DeBrincat was -2. That line, not a lot of offense generated. I didn't watch the whole game. Cause for concern, Tim, already? Kane didn't get a point in his first game?
Yeah, bad contract. Bad decision by Yzerman, and they should just look at a buyout.
The Yzer plan's blowing up. Moving on. The LA Kings out west. Should we talk about this team, Tim? They're 11-0. 11-0 in their last 11 games. Longest road winning streak to start the season. Sorry, 11-0 on the road.
Yeah.
Why is no one talking about this LA Kings team? They are on fuego.
Well, I feel like people are now. So this is the longest streak in NHL history to start the season on the road, which is just crazy. And I was reading some of the quotes from the guys, and they were just talking about how much they take pride in that, which is really challenging. We talked about that. Just you're traveling, you're not sleeping in your bed, the schedule's all messed up. And so being a tough road team is really, really good. It also speaks really well. If they can keep this going, obviously they're going to lose at some point, but if they can continue being a tough road team in the playoffs, that's a huge, huge difference maker. One of the major points for them so far has been the arrival of Quinton Byfield, who was a high lottery pick, I think 3rd overall 4 or 5 years ago. 21 points so far in 23 games. He's got 4 goals and 5 points in his past 3 games. I feel like the patience is paid off for this guy. Patience for the Kings. I'm waiting for him, I'm giving him more time, letting him develop, because you look at his stats and slow stats, didn't really break out. Was, I wouldn't say disappointing, but like you wanted more from him. His first year, he played 6 games, 1 point. Next year, 10 points in 40 games, 22 points in 53 games. Now he's already at 21 in half as many games this year. So he's definitely going to arrive. I think he's probably going to clear 70 points this year. Does this does it model like what the Rangers should keep doing with Lafreniere or some of the other guys who have been slower to break out? Because you look at him, it's like, okay, maybe it takes a few more years for some people.
Well, same draft class as Lafreniere. Byfield was 2, Lafreniere was 1. So I do think this adds credence to the fact that these guys need a little seasoning sometimes. They're not going to come out always like a Connor Bedard this year and make an immediate impact. So it does kind of make you play the waiting game. But as a GM, it's frustrating because you draft this guy, you expect them to be high impact players right away, and it's just not the case. And especially in this case, because the top two guys, Lafreniere and Byfield, they have taken a little bit longer of time to get acclimated to the NHL. The people drafted after them have been playing great. Tim Stützle, Lucas Raymond, Jake Sanderson, Drysdale, minus the injuries, have been playing really good. Marco Rossi for the Minnesota Wild, Cole Perfetti. All of these guys, Seth Jarvis for the Carolina Hurricanes, all of them drafted directly after the top two guys, have made massive impacts for their teams for multiple years now. So it's frustrating when you're a GM and you're watching these guys taking off and you're like, I took the first overall pick, Lafreniere, what's going on? I should get rid of him. It's nice to see a GM not panicking. Obviously, the Rangers and the Kings had the luxury to wait on these guys. They already had first and second lines that were locked in. Byfield could just play on the third line, play on the fourth line. The LA Kings had Kempe, they had Kopitar, they had Iafallo, they have Dubois right now. They had guys who could carry the weight. So it was nice, but it just makes you think to other teams who have maybe given up, a la Kirby Dach in Chicago, where it's like, okay, maybe you should have held on to him a little more. Who knows? But Quentin Byfield, Tim, is the real deal. He's a big boy. Go ahead.
Right. Well, it's not just him. You look at the lineup, and I was kind of prepping for the show this morning. I'm like, okay, who's leading the charge? It's all of them. They're all playing well. You've got Kopitar and Kempe with 24 points each. Trevor Moore leads the team. Trevor Moore with 13 goals. Fiala's got 23 points. Byfield's got 21. Deneau's got 15 while playing a shutdown role. Even Drew Doughty's going to clear 50 points again at this point in his career as a defenseman. Like, they're up and down the lineup. Everyone is contributing. Everyone's doing their job. And then you look in between the pipes. Cam Talbot, 1.84 goals against, 933 save percentage. He's 12-4 on the year. Just
arguably
incredible.
Should be in the Vezina conversation at this point.
He is, and his backup's 4-0. You know what I mean?
Phoenix,
what these guys are doing is just crazy. And I hope they're not peaking too fast, but this doesn't seem like a team that I would worry about that when they're led by the veterans that they have, and they have Rob Blake in charge of the organization. I don't feel like that would be a concern for me is the longevity for the season. They really don't have a weakness. Do you see any?
Well, the back end isn't as strong as I'd like it to be. It's good. But I think if you're going to put them up against other teams, that would be the one glaring weakness where I'm like, maybe we need to add something there. But that's like just nitpicking. They have a very good defense. Don't get me wrong. So, yeah, they're a good team, Tim. They have 4 games in hand on the Vegas Golden Knights. I think they're 4 points behind Vegas. They'll pass them. This is a good squad. They'll be there at the end.
Yeah, they've got a better points percentage than Vegas. So do you feel like that makes them the top dog, or is Vegas still the ones with the target on their back?
Well, they're the Stanley Cup champs, yeah. Well, I think until they're not, then they won't be. Much like Colorado was, much like Tampa Bay was. Like Vegas, isn't it weird? I don't think of Vegas as the Stanley Cup champions. Do you feel that way, or am I just crazy?
I do. Jack Eichel, by the way, has got 10 points in his last 5 games. They're looking really good, too.
Yeah, they're very good. Aiden Hill's been down with an injury. Logan Thompson stepped up. He's been playing. Gosh, the luxury of having two good goalies. But this Pacific Division, top heavy. There's some good, like these are 3 legit teams that I think could win the Stanley Cup. The Vegas Golden Knights, the Los Angeles Kings, and the Vancouver Canucks. All 3 of these teams have the pieces to win a Stanley Cup. They're very good. Yeah. And then on the other side, the Central, I think it's the Avalanche and the Stars who are in contention for the Stanley Cup right now. I don't think the Jets, Coyotes, Predators are there quite yet. I don't think the Wild are there. I don't think the Blackhawks are there. The Avalanche and the Stars.
My bold prediction was 5 teams from the Pacific would make the playoffs. Still not out of reach. I think Edmonton, we're not going to talk too much about them today, but they just won again. They're 5-0, or 5 wins in a row. Yep. Calgary's only a couple points, so they're all close. Kraken's right there too, so it could happen.
Well, I think what helps them is just a complete abject failure of some of the teams in the Central. I think the Coyotes and Predators are buttressing up those teams in the Central, and who knows if the Coyotes can keep this up. So I don't know, Tim. You might be onto something. I don't think it'll happen, but you never know. You never know. All right, what else are we talking about here, Tim?
Well, the last thing here is, and it's silly, but this Austin Watson thing last
Oh,
night.
this guy. Go ahead.
So 1 second left in the game. It's a 5-1 game. He's got the puck at his own blue line and just launches full windup, elevated stick right at Jeremy Lazon at center ice for the Predators.
Such
No
a
reason
dummy.
for it. Yeah, so there's kind of a split debate of like, this is egregious, this is gross, what a stupid play. You could have really hurt someone. Other people are sort of like, yeah, it's stupid, but no big deal. Like, don't blow this out of proportion. Where do you land on this?
Well, it's a respect thing for me. It's because I was a player, and what are you doing? You're shooting. I don't care if it hits me in the shin pad and it doesn't hurt at all. It's just disrespectful. It's like you're like, what are you doing? You lost the game 5-1. Suck it up and just leave the ice. There's no rhyme or reason to do this. This is like shooting the puck in the goal after the whistle. Players just don't like it. It's dumb. And you saw the reaction for the Predators. They went right after him. Like, what are you doing, man? Austin Watson. Like, it's just stupid. It doesn't mean, how is he signed with the Tampa Bay Lightning? It boggles my mind. I'm looking up his contract right now. It's league minimum 1 year. So bad. Austin Watson. I'm surprised I said this, I think, last year. The worst tough guy who's ever lived. Like, every fight he's in, he loses. Go look him up on hockeyfights.com. I haven't looked this up, so I could be wrong. I would bet 80% of the fights he's lost. He's a gamer. He shows up, but he just gets beat up all the time. So I don't know. It's a disrespectful move from a player to another player. There's no rhyme or reason for it. I get you're frustrated. Shoot the puck at the boards. Shooting it at another player just doesn't garner any respect. Your team hates you, and the other team hates you. Did you see Tyler Mott? Did you see Mott on the ice after the clip? He goes right up to Lausanne, and he goes, that was dumb." He goes, Tampa Bay player. He's like, that was so egregious. I don't know why he did that. Yeah, I'm doing the John Boy lip reading. He goes, "Watson's a dummy. I'm sorry." Like that. I'm assuming that's what he's saying.
Yeah. So I mean, it had to have been not an isolated incident. Like something must have happened. Maybe those two guys were kind of elbowing all night or whatever. I don't think he would just randomly do that. Not to excuse it, but I'm saying it didn't happen in a bubble. But have you seen anything like that before? Like that egregious? Because I know guys shoot pucks at each other at practice, like as a joke with their teammates.
Oh no, if there's something that preempted it, I don't think anything preempted this at all.
But
I think this was Austin Watson just being a jerk. Because guys shoot pucks at other guys all the time. I do it in my men's league game. If someone's getting out of line, I'll just rip a puck at them. Like,
did players ever hit refs on purpose?
Yeah.
And the refs know that it's on purpose? It's like, hey, get it together. Yeah.
Yeah. If they're calling the game bad or something, or they're just lipping off, you dump one in, it's not on the boards like it usually is, and you hit him in the ankle or something. Yeah. All the refs, the poor refs. But anyways, it's just a dumb move do better, Austin Watson. What's his stats this year? Not that I'm a stats guy. I just want to know how many games he's played in. Bear with me, everybody. He's played in 15 games. Gosh darn it. He's got 1 goal. He was with the Senators last year. He's had a good career for himself. He's almost at 500 games. I don't like it. All right, moving on, Tim. What's next?
We'll get into some quick hits here, which are brought to you by DoorDash. Use promo code NATION25, all caps, for 25% off your first order and free delivery. Only in Canada. Canada. A couple ones here. There's actually a long list here.
Not quite worldwide.
The first one here, Ovechkin became the 16th NHL player last night to record 1,500 career points. Crosby's the only other active one. He did that last year.
With one team.
Yeah.
Which is rare. I think there's only 5 or 6 guys who have done it with one team. I think a leader of a single point team. I don't think I know. The player who's gotten the most points of one team is Tim?
Eiserman.
Gordy.
Oh, yeah. No. Oh, I guess but he played. Yeah, okay. I gotcha. I was looking at guys who only ever played for one team.
No, because Gretzky's top 3. I thought Gretzky was going to be on there twice for the Oilers and the Kings. I was wrong. I'm so stupid. I'm such an idiot. I'm such a goon.
The least. Yeah, you've been punched in the head too many times, man. Leafs have another goalie situation. We kind of talked about this last week as well. So Samsonov obviously was great last year, surprised everyone, including you. Not me. I saw it coming. And then he's been really bad this year. Really, really bad. And I know even more than you do because I listened and I drafted him in the 4th round in fantasy, and he's been absolutely abysmal. And I'm suffering from that every week. And then to make things worse, he goes down with an illness, which is like no big deal, but it's just kind of insult to injury there. Meanwhile, Joseph Wall looks pretty good, and he's coming in. He's stopping. He's not blown. He hasn't earned the number 1 spot or anything, but he's adding some stability back there. And then last night he gets hurt. He's going to, quote, miss some time after he sustained an apparent leg injury in the 3rd period of their win last night against Ottawa. So where do the Leafs go from here? They have the defense is coming apart, and I mean that just in the sense of their roster, right? They're missing all these key guys to injuries. Yep. Now the goalie is kind of the same thing. Is it time to panic if you're the Leafs?
I don't know. No, they're going to make the playoffs. I just think this is this has always been the issue ever since Freddie Anderson left. They haven't had a goalie who is just you can lock him in and start him for 60 games a year. I don't know.
Well, and they ran him out of town. You know what I mean? Yeah.
How good would a Cam Talbot? Remember we said this offseason bringing a vet? And I said that. They got to bring a vet in. Someone to just be there. And I know they have Martin Jones. I don't know if he's in with the Marlies in the AHL. Maybe he gets the call. But I said bring in a Jonathan Quick. Bring in a vet. Look at how good these guys are doing. Nobody listens to me. Nobody listens to me.
I think you also said Fleury, who's not doing too hot. But
Fleury would be great with the Leafs. I think he would fit in nicely.
Another tough injury. Shabbat expected to miss at least 4 weeks for the Senators. Not good news
during
for
Hanukkah
them.
too. Shabbat Shalom. That's a tough one.
He had a broken hand. Okay, interesting quote. We said on last episode before the Graves interview that Tyson Barrie has been given permission by the Predators to explore trade options. He was a healthy scratch. They're both looking to make a move. And he had a nice little quote that I thought was interesting. He said, quote, well, if we're getting into it, I'm in the stands, so it doesn't really feel like a great fit. My goal is to be playing hockey, whether that's here or elsewhere, is up to the powers that be to decide. I like that. I think it's good. He's like, is it the right fit? He goes, I'm not playing, so apparently not.
I'm glad you like it.
There. I like it.
Did you hear Barry Trotz got after him? Because apparently there was only Barry, his agent, the coach, and the GM knew that he was going to be healthy scratch. That's it. And the word got out that he had asked for a trade, and only those 4 guys knew about it. And Trotz, it didn't come from us. So it's his agent leaking all this crap to you guys. So Trotz was just upset about it. He's like, that's not how we run things here in Nashville. So I expect a trade to happen very, very soon. They want him out. He wants to be gone. He will be gone by the end of next week. Good. I like Tyson Barrie.
Yeah.
Good player. I think he would help. I think he would help a contender. Throw him on the 5-6 and just let him run the second power play. I think that's his sweet spot right now. Limit his minutes. Let him rack up some points in the power play. If the number 1 power play guy goes down, he can step up. Gosh, he would look good in Chicago.
I think he's going to go back to one of the teams he's already been on.
How many teams has he been on?
Colorado, Toronto, and Edmonton.
Colorado, Toronto, or Edmonton. Gosh, not Toronto. They don't need him in Toronto. Although, isn't it funny? They don't have a guy to run the power. Is Mitch Marner on the power play in Toronto?
I don't know what happened to Riley. All of a sudden, he's not he was putting up 70 points a year, and then he just decided not to. It's not like he's old or anything.
I think he just decided not to. He's like, I don't want to do this anymore. This is dumb. I'm bored.
Speaking of the Predators, real quick, Ryan McDonough had his first goal of the season last night, and it was against the Leafs, the Lightning, so his former team. So good for him.
Isn't that nice?
Cool little moment. Last one here. Friedman said that the Devils don't know how long Dougie Hamilton is out, so they could have interest in getting a point-getting defenseman. So Barrie is going to be in the mix, as is Tony DeAngelo. Hamilton's out indefinitely after surgery on a torn pectoral muscle, which has got to be painful. So one of those 2 guys could be in the mix, but it's also a great chance for those 2 young rookies to step up. Luke Hughes, obviously, and then Nemec. I don't know if that's how you say it. Probably not.
Simon Nemec,
who had his first goal. He just made his debut. He was a 2nd overall pick, I think, last year. So they have a couple of young kids who could step up and fill that role, but I wouldn't be surprised to see them go out and pick somebody up.
Tony
DeLangelo. Right?
Like him. He'd be another guy who just never gets a fair shot at it. He's always the first one people blame. I don't know. I had Dougie Hamilton getting 100 points, so what do I know?
I had no, you didn't. I had a defenseman, and Quinn Hughes is going to do it. So
I had Dougie winning the Norris.
That you did.
He's making me look bad. The heck, Dougie. All right. Anything else, Tim, on the docket?
No. It feels like these episodes have been shorter lately. It's not by design. We've got tons of content. Anything on your mind?
Oh, I could tell you what happened in Chicken World. We had a traumatic experience.
And I'm still waiting for a picture too. But I would like to know.
Oh, I forgot about that. So we got back one night and the sun had gone down and the girls went to close up the chicken coop and they were reaching in the coop. Usually I have to push the chickens through the door to get them in. My daughter pushed the one chicken in and she came back and her hand was red. She's like, didn't know what it was. Then she saw two red eyes inside the coop in the car staring at her. And it was a possum. A possum got into the car and was killing everything. Tim, traumatic.
Wait.
So what?
Why was her hand red?
Because there was blood from the chicken. She was pushing the chicken out of the way of the door. And so they come screaming inside. There's a possum in the car. And they said the chickens are going crazy. So I ran out there, opened up the car, the back hatch, and sure enough, there's a possum there, like eating a chicken. And so I had to get the possum out, and then he only killed one chicken, and he bit another chicken's tail off, the feathers. So, and then one rooster ran away, and we found him the next day up in a tree. So it was bizarre. So we have two hens left, one without a tail, and one has gone completely unscathed through all this stuff, which is remarkable. And then one rooster, Black Betty. And so we're down to 3.
You started with 2 roosters and 3 chickens?
2 roosters, 4 chickens. So we're down by half. We're down 50%.
I didn't know possums ate or attacked chickens.
Neither did I. I'm learning so much.
Isn't the rooster there to protect the chickens?
And the rooster beat it. I know. I thought the same thing. I'm like, what are you good for if you're just leaving all these hens just to die?
Don't lay eggs. Are you getting eggs anymore?
No, the chickens are so traumatized. They're just like, it's just like a mess, Tim. It's a complete mess.
You just brought these animals home to torture them, basically.
Not me. We
feed them to the wolves.
So, feed them to possums. But we're going to get more next year. But yeah, it's just traumatic. Like I'm telling you.
Good learning lesson.
I've never seen these kids as scared as they were. I was like, I just went in full dad mode, sprinted outside. Have you seen Happy Gilmore? I believe that belongs to Mr. Gilmore. That guy running down the big guy who had got the nail in his head. That was me running in the snow. Just like a dummy. Oh, goodness. But yeah, big plans for the weekend, Tim? Anything fun?
No, nothing planned. I'll figure something out.
I'm heading down to Chicago again. I'll be there. Saturday, Sunday game. Good stuff.
Keep bringing it back, huh?
I'm going to go visit with the Caps on Sunday. I got to actually get my press pass set up for that. So go hang out with Ovi, my buddy. It'll be fun. I'll let you know how it goes on Monday.
Sounds
All right,
good.
everybody. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next week. Have a good one. Cheers.